I may not have been able to add another mainline Senran Kagura game to the list, but at the very least I can add a spin-off, alright? Well, there's 3 reasons why I'm actually covering this crossover. Number 1, well, obviously I need something to add into the Senran March Madness. Number 2, this is obviously going to be the 5th anniversary for this game, almost 5 years since this game has been released. Finally, the last reason as to why I'm covering this game, the 5th mainline Neptunia game has finally been revealed, and I'm so looking forward to this after over a decade. I cannot believe it took us over a decade to finally get to this point, but better late than never, I suppose. I just hope this actually brings in more hype for the Neptunia series, and finally we can actually get something new. I hope this actually sparks up my interest again. But anyways, let's dive right into this. Marvelous and Idea Factory has had a remarkable partnership working together on games and in-game content. In 2012, Hyperdimension Neptunia Victory would be released, and one of the characters in the game was a DLC character named Marvelous AQL, or Marvy for short. She's based on the company Marvelous. She's very similar to Senran Kagura's mascot Asuka, and they're both voiced by Hitomi Harada. Then, Tamsoft will collaborate with Compound Heart on 3 Neptunia spin-offs, that being Hyperdimension Neptunia U Action Unleashed, Cyberdimension Neptunia 4 Goddesses Online, and Mega Tag Mention Blonde, with a new character that was introduced in Mega Tag. This is Tamsoft, an actual character based on the developer Tamsoft, and she would actually return for 4 Goddesses Online. Then in 2018, Neptune became a DLC character in Senran Kagura PBS, which was great for Neptunia fans. I just did a review on the game, so if you haven't already, you can check it out after this video in the top right corner. So if it wasn't clear enough, Senran Kagura are very tight with Neptunia. And if you were to ask me which franchise I mostly like, I wouldn't be able to answer that question. Both franchises are amazing to me, and I was curious if they would actually make a proper crossover. However, in March of 2019, a teaser image was shown which was called Game E Ninja Neptunia, and afterwards there was nothing mentioned about it. There were no updates for almost 2 years, and no news came up about it. However, in 2021, we finally got what we wanted. After almost a decade of small collaborations, Senran Kagura and Neptunia fans can rejoice as the long-awaited crossover between the 2 franchises is finally here. Neptunia cross Senran Kagura Ninja Wars. When I saw the first trailer, I was very excited for this game. Senran Kagura has been a niche franchise that I've been following for over a decade, with Neptunia being 7 years since I got into it. I've done playthroughs on some of their games. I own a bunch of their games, with PBS and V2 being my #1 favorites. And I even watched the prospective anime adaptations. So of course, I was excited for this crossover. And seeing that this is a crossover, of course Compound Heart and Tamsoft will work together developing this game, with IFI and Marvelous publishing it. This game is close to turning 5 years old, like I said in the intro. So did this crossover live up to the hype? Let's find out. In the world of game industry, yes, that's actually the name. In the world of game industry, where Heartland of Compound Style and Marvelland of Honeypot Style are at odds with each other, things went south when a robotic ninja interrupted their heated battle, and not helping much is an evil leader of the Steam Legion and master of the headshot style, Yo Gamer, declaring a super ninja war on every ninja around the world. Okay, can I ask, who the f names their kid Yo Gamer? What, you're telling me they're gonna be a gamer already up to start when they grow up? That's a bit odd. I just find the name pretty funny, but whatever. So in order to prevent game industry from falling, Histoire, the daimyo of Heartland, declares an alliance with Marvelland. However, upon the arrival of the Compa-style goddesses, Asuka ends up breaking the bad rules, stating that the daimyo has declined their alliance due to them having a chance to take down Heartland thanks to the invasion of the Steam Legion.
What an asshole!
But the irony would kick in as even the Steam Legion ends up attacking Marvelland. So the 4 ninja goddesses offer to help Asuka and the others protect Marvelland, and upon meeting up with Yumi and Miyabi, they also ran into Yo Gamer and Tetsugo. And right when the 4 ninja goddesses were on their way back to Heartland, Homo stops them in time, informing them that their daimyo has agreed to the alliance. I gotta say, for a story centering on two different franchises, this is pretty straightforward. It's nothing that special. I mean, it's literally two clans of different franchises joining forces to stop the big bad, that being Yo Gamer and Tetsugo, and they ended up beating them in the end. But it isn't a bad story or anything. We do get to see some new and familiar faces, Compa as the face of the Compa style, and Iffy as Heartland's Shrine Mating. They will also run into Yuki, a busty ninja of the Virtual style and the Virtual Nation. She's on a mission to save her nation, and Aru, the princess of the Virtual Nation. Again, the story in my opinion is nothing special, but it isn't anything awful either. I admire the attempt of having our short protagonist and busty protagonist work together against the big bad, and there were some moments where I chuckled a bit, like when Steam Max claimed that they can't see their feet because of their large boobs, which made Whiteheart go Super Saiyan at that point, or when Asuka thought Blonde was describing Dojinshi, "You naughty ass ninja." How about when Steam Max pulled the 5 V's Jutsu yet again? That was the clear winner for me. The story does have its moments, I will give it that, but at the end of the day, this story gets a B-. Okay, time for the gameplay. Ninja Wars borrows almost the same gameplay from Estival Versus, except they also added the pairing system from Deep Crimson and Action Unleashed. Thing is, you can't choose only one character for a mission. You have to have a partner to switch with in order to play the game. There's no heavy attacks, but instead kunais and shurikens that you can throw with the triangle button. And unfortunately, you can't run as fast as you did in the previous Senran Kagura games. Not only is the speed so slower, but to add to it, there's no aerial wave either. With all of that in mind, this type of gameplay doesn't hit as hard as the Senran Kagura games. But the game does have ninja art skills. By holding down the L1 button, you can choose which ninja art to perform, and you can even customize them. However, these ninja arts can cost stamina, so be careful not to rely on them too much. And yes, you can sprint as much as you can by holding down the R2 button. It's a lot easier than just holding down the circle button, and it takes an obnoxiously long time for the meter to go down. There's also an awaken mode called Furikazen mode, where you can activate it by holding down the R1 button and choosing which drive to awaken in. From fire to mountain, wind, and forest. This gives various benefits depending on the type you awaken in, and you can activate it at any time. Fire can greatly increase all attack power, but at the cost of your defense. Mountain will not flinch and can guard against all attacks without taking damage. You can also recover your stamina gauge while guarding. Wind can increase your stamina gauge, recovery speed, as well as your ninja art skills effects, and force will not only not be inflicted with status effects, but can also increase the recovery speed of your ninja weapon gauge and can restore your health every second. Out of all the four, I find myself using the mountain drive and the forest drive, since they can not only restore my health, but can also keep me from taking more damage. I really wish we could have started in our base form for each mission. The lack of transformations was a seriously missed opportunity. Just seeing those sexy transformations in action could have added more to the fan service, something that both games have benefited from. Finally, when your EX gauge is at maximum, you can activate your Shinobi Extreme, which is your ultimate ninja art. Doing this will not only deal more damage, but will also have a flashy cut-in effect. And just like the Neptunia games, you can carry items that'll help you during your tougher missions. The game also has spirit gems. These are special items that can grant characters various effects when placed onto the spirit gem board. By placing them of the same type into specific shapes, bonus effects will activate. These can be pretty helpful when fighting against harder enemies. This game also does have boss fights, and they can be pretty tough, especially a certain 8-legged bitch that I will not get into. There are also times where you have to defeat a certain amount of enemies before progressing through, and it's not like defeating them is hard depending on what level your character is at, but it can be pretty tedious at times. Neptunia Cross Senran Kagura Ninja Wars is sporting a 10 playable character roster featuring the 4 CPUs of Heartland, the 4 leaders of Marvel Land, as well as Yuki, and Golden Crow, a guest character from the Shinobi series which I've never heard of until this video. And out of the 10 characters, I find myself using Purple Heart and Yuki the most. Purple Heart because she's my favorite character in the Neptunia series, obviously. Not only is her attacks are very interesting to pull off, but even as a ninja, she's still hella sexy. The same can be said for Yuki because, have you seen her? I think she even tops Yellowheart for the largest bust in the series, which is crazy. Plus her cat-like attacks are awesome to pull off. I do like playing as Asuka though, she's pretty cute and has some cool attacks to pull off. Aside from the story mode, there are other activities you can do in this game. There are over 40 missions for you to complete, which can range from killing a certain number of enemies to finishing a mission under a time limit or collecting items. And as you progress, the missions will get harder and harder, so make sure your characters are above the level required. Yomi training is a high difficulty mode that appears after beating the story mode. There are 8 different kinds of Yomi training, each with 3 levels to clear. And within a single trial, not only does the remaining HP and food and cons and drives carry over, various restrictions are applied, like blocking the use of ninja art skills, making it incredibly challenging. This kind of stuff is completely optional and is only there for you to test your skill. And then there's this mode called Peaches and Cream Meditation. This is where you're balancing on a giant swaying jiggly peach, and you'll need to keep balance by tilting the controller so that the character doesn't fall off the peach. A patience challenge will occur during meditation for a more fun and challenging experience. I actually got some enjoyment out of this, and I kind of wish Marvelous would incorporate this type of mode in the Senran Kagura games. Maybe when they actually get back into making these games. Market Street is where you'll be able to buy items, spirit gems, kunais, shurikens, and equipment to help you prepare for dungeons. And there's also Treasury, where you can view the story events, CG events, character bios, movies, as well as listen to music. Speaking of which, the soundtrack in this game is some pretty good stuff. I especially enjoyed tracks like Unstealthy Ninjas, the Waterfall Meditation, and the Peaches and Cream Meditation folk song. The music isn't spectacular or anything, but it does have some good bops. The presentation in this game is questionable. I can understand not having an English dub for Neptunia Virtual Stars, since the game has up to 30 plus actual VTubers hailing from Japan, with some of them being from HoloLive, as well as having Kisuna Ai as DLC. But with Ninja Wars, I don't understand why Marvelous couldn't bother to have English voices for the Senran Kagura characters when they already have them in the anime. Maybe it's due to the licensing issues, or that they chose not to have them due to high costs, I don't know. Or maybe it has to do with the amount of fan service Senran Kagura has. But Ninja Wars doesn't have a lot of fan service aside from the jiggle physics and panty shots. Not to mention that Yumi was a DLC character in Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle with an English voice. So really, there's no excuse for Marvelous to not allow an English dub for the game. And as someone who's so used to hearing the Neptunia characters in English, hearing them in Japanese feels so weird compared to the Senran Kagura games. But in all fairness, the voice acting is still on point. Graphically, the game is passable. I do like the environments in the dungeons, and while it doesn't look as colorful as some of the previous SK and Neptunia games, it still holds up. The in-game models look really good, no complaints here, but that's just graphics and design. In terms of cutscenes, they're awful. Despite this being a crossover, it's mostly a Neptunia game, and I think it would have been better if the Senran Kagura characters got the Neptunia treatment. But even then, having the character portraits not move except for their mouths doesn't really sit well with me. Or at the very least, have the cutscenes like in Estival Versus and PBS. This whole clashing of art styles in this game just doesn't work when I've seen far better artwork in previous games. These cutscenes and CGs just aren't it. The only ones that I think fared better are with Yuki, but everything else is just inexcusable. Neptunia Cross Senran Kagura Ninja Wars is an average game that I had average feelings on. I feel like this game may have been on a budget given how half-baked the cutscenes and CGs turned out, and with the fan service being toned down heavily, it doesn't really feel like a Senran Kagura or even a Neptunia game. No costume destructions, no saucy CGs, no sexy transformations, nothing. The jiggle physics are still there, so that's good, but this is just a sign of IFI and Compound Heart being scared of Sony's censorship policy. The gameplay still holds up, but I wish there was more to it. In fact, I think having DLC could have added more interest to the game. Like more missions, more dungeons, and most importantly, more characters. I can appreciate the developers for bringing these two franchises together for a really cool crossover, but it could have been a lot better. Neptunia Cross Senran Kagura Ninja Wars gets a 6.5 out of 10. I can only recommend this to Neptunia and Senran Kagura fans, because I'm sure they'll get some mileage out of this. Hopefully, if they ever do a crossover like this again, they could build upon what worked in this game to make an even better crossover with more content and more improvements. But for now, I'll look forward to the 5th main Neptunia game. Well, only one more video to cap off the Senran March Madness. And what better way to end the month than with a video dedicated to one specific character in the franchise. You all know where this is going, that special Senran Kagura video I've been teasing till the end. So stay tuned for that. But until then, this is Starter Protagonist signing out. As always, Goki Genyo, and have a star-tastic day, everyone. If you enjoyed today's video, then be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn those notifications on to join the Star Nation. Also, be sure to follow my Twitter, and while you're at it, check out my previous video. Now,